Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really excited to be here because, as Greg said, I really do love soil, and I'm very excited to share Tank's Green Stuff products with you and talk to you about how you can embark on your fruit tree planting project very soon here and have some success and make sure that you have fruit for decades to come. So I guess Greg told you a little bit about my background and where I've been and worked, but really I should tell you a bit more about how I guess I earned the name the Dirt Girl. I've been digging in the dirt and playing around in the dirt since I was a little girl. My family is a background in farming as well, so I'm very interested and passionate about it, and I hope to kind of dispel some of those myths that have circulated amongst gardeners and really get a basic understanding about the soil, right? So let's go, just dive in. Okay. So let's talk about Tank's Green Stuff. The name of the company got its name from the nickname of the owner, Jason Tankersley. He's very passionate about recycling as well, and the operation started as a sand and gravel and then a landfill operation, and then we just started seeing that we could recycle so much of that green landscape debris. So we created Tank's Green Stuff. Everything that we make is OMRI listed, organic, or natural. We have a few products here that are going to be available through the urban farm, so the organic compost, the wood chips, the organic fertilizer, and then an exclusive product, which we'll talk about a little bit later, only from the urban farm. And then otherwise, Tank's Green Stuff also makes organic potting mix, cactus and succulent mix, composted mulch. We have everything available in bulk and in bags, a lot of them here in the valley, and I do have the flyer with a list of all the places where you can find it. So thank you so much for having me here. All right, let's get down to it. You know what, I almost feel a little weird talking about dirt without getting a little dirty. So I thought I'd just, prep myself. And why don't I just pass this around? You guys want to see it? Check it out. Pass it to your neighbor. It's good stuff. Okay, so on the top here is our composting facility off of Ina and I-10. It's open to the public. You can bring in your green waste there. We educate people to understand that it needs to be clean in order to go into the composting operation. We pull out logs and limbs to make wood chips, so it's really just a leafy green debris that goes into the compost. There's some picture of the compost and loading into the grinder, and this is our awesome compost turner. Check out all that steam. Everybody knows what that's from, right? Well, if you don't, we will know in just a minute. Okay, so this is our compost turner. It's a beautiful thing. All right. So what is compost? Why compost? What do we care? Why do we care about compost? So it's decomposed organic material. We're going to talk a lot about organic matter and why that is important to the soil. But compost is ideal for everything. I mean, yeah, your hands, but also for trees, fruit trees, obviously, trees and shrubs, for growing vegetables and flowers, for planting your seeds in, for your lawns as well. So it's really applicable for everything, including cactus. Our cactus mix actually has 10% compost. So the compost improves the soil structure. We're going to get down into those details in just a moment. It reduces water use. Water is so important here in Arizona, right? We really want to make sure that water is available for those plant roots whenever they need it. It supports the soil microbes, those hard-working little buggers we can't see. I also talk a lot about them. Provides all the necessary essential nutrients. There's a lot of them that the plant needs to grow, thrive, and produce fruit. Reduces erosion. This is very closely tied to the soil structure. So if we have a good soil structure, then it can hold water and it does not create erosion and dust problems. Stabilizes the pH. It binds heavy metals. I mean, it's pretty much just the answer to everything. Okay. All right, let's get into the soil structure. So let's talk about the three components that make up this soil. We have texture, we have chemistry, and then the biological portion of the soil, the microbes, the life in the soil. So the texture is described as having three components: sand, silt, and clay. Everybody's heard of this, right? So these are the three particle sizes: very small silt, the sand, and then the clay is this kind of flat sheet shape structure. Very important is the porosity. Just as much as those particles, we need the air and the water to have pores to take up, to live in those interspaces. Of course, the minerals and the nutrients that come from the organic matter. The organic matter is decomposing organic material. Nature does this best. You know, the leaves and debris fall, branches fall, animal leaves their manure, animals decompose, and all this makes up the organic portion of the soil. Most soils contain 2 to 10% organic matter, but of course here in the desert we've got like 1% or less. Why is that? What are we lacking? What's different in the Pacific Northwest?
Water.
Water, yeah. So all the water really helps to decompose and make that composting action happen. So we have to probably give it a little more help. And then, of course, those small but very important beneficial microbes, a lot of different individuals in this category between the bacteria, the fungi, including mycorrhizae, the protozoa, nematodes, beneficials, all kinds of stuff in that category. And I would love to talk in great detail about them, and we will talk about them, but there's probably a whole Urban Farm podcast on that. All right, so this is all very conceptual. Why don't we just get down to some real stuff. Breakfast soil. Okay, so this represents soil. This is, you know, Rice Krispies and Kix or whatever, so use your imagination. But these are the soil particles. Those are taking up the space. We have a lot of interspaces there where water can be, but this represents the balanced soil, many shapes, sizes, and pores, right? You with me? Okay, so we add water, right? When we have a balanced soil with those different sizes and shapes, we see that there's lots of water and air. Can you actually see those little air bubbles? They were perfect. Really liked that. So balanced soil holds water, holds air. Now, when we have unbalanced or compacted soil, say you've been parking your car on that piece of soil for a long time, it's very compacted from foot traffic, maybe it hasn't been cared for with proper organic matter and culturing, and maybe it's been tilled a lot, you get this compaction, then you lose all that airspace, you lose all those pores, and you don't have this shape in the soil anymore. And that's so important. When you add the water, it doesn't drain, it actually pools at the top. So you lose all of the healthy elements of that soil. What about working wet soil? You lose the aggregates and that pore space just the same. So this is all smashed up. The cereal got all smashed up, and then adding the water, it didn't allow it to drain through. So I think that this really demonstrates what's going on in the soil when you destroy those aggregates and porosity from tilling and working the soil improperly. So let's learn a little bit about those beneficial microbes that rely on moisture and air to be existing in those interspaces. These microbes have a very special relationship with the plants. They are really the composters. We add lots of microbes to our compost in order to kickstart that process and break down all of the organic matter, so we end up with a nice, finished, rich organic compost. Hopefully it's making its way around. There's lots to go around. All right, the microbes create a ton of heat in the process, which is a really important part. So they actually take into their little mouths and break up and munch up all that organic matter. As it passes through their body, their microbial, the activity actually produces an amazing amount of heat. Our compost gets up to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. You can actually burn your hand putting it into that compost pile. It's pretty fun. I think it's fun. And in doing so, it kills potential pathogens like E. coli and salmonella. It breaks down contaminants. Really, it can heal the soil. It's the answer. The microbes that are in there actually really stimulate the production of humus. Does everybody know what humus is? It's not hummus, that's different. Humus is that rich feeling that you get whenever you touch good compost. When you, like earthworm castings, have that lovely texture. That's humus. That's the organic matter that is the key to your healthy fruit trees. All right, so I wanted to mention back to feed. Oh yeah, this is a great demonstration. This is our compost on the top. We started with another product. It was pretty good, breaking down and starting to kickstart as a catalyst for our compost. And then back to feed, they're out of Utah, came to us and said, just try 1 row of compost with our back to feed. And this was the difference. So I think it demonstrates the power of very healthy, thriving, beneficial microbes in the soil. I want to walk us through this very wordy, but so we'll just do basics, but this is a great kind of poster here that's produced by an organization called Kiss the Soil. And we work with Kiss the Ground, pardon me. Kiss the Ground with U.S. Composting Council, of which Tanks Green Stuff is a member. They produce this fantastic short 10-minute public, you can view this and it's available to the public. I think every school kid needs to see this. It talks about recycling our organic matter and not putting it into the landfills and relating it to climate change as well. So, I don't recognize any of these people. I think entertainment is like watching compost turn, but you probably do, and they're the ones telling the story. So go check that out. Okay, so here's the top of that poster I wanted to walk us through and really just understand what is going on. So first of all, plants. They're in the environment. They obtain energy from the sun via photosynthesis, right? They're producing energy from that in the form of carbohydrates and sugars. Then those carbohydrates and sugars get translocated through the plant down into the soil, and they're actually feeding these sugars to the microbes in the soil. They have this really nice relationship going where they give the energy to the microbes munch that up and trade for nutrition, for nutrients, and also a lot of other things. But basically, that's what's going on. The microbes give nutrients and water efficiency back to the plant. And then, in turn, like we've talked about, microbes create humus in this as they metabolize that organic matter. So it's a really beautiful process. I love the symbiotic relationships in nature. So everybody's good? Microbes are good. All right, and just to recap, so we've got porosity, air and water spaces. We've got the nutrients in the soil, those macronutrients like NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and all those micronutrients as well. That all come from organic matter. Microbes are super important in that they decompose all the organic matter and turn it into humus, a very stable form of carbon in the soil. The fungi, we can't forget them because they're important in the formation of the aggregates. They create like this fungi glue in the soil. And so how do we create healthy soil and unhealthy soil? On the left there, you can really see those, the fungi in there. You can see lots of porosity. Everybody knows what good soil looks like and not so good soil, dead soil. I love before and afters. I'm big on before and afters. It's like very dramatic. So this is a golf course in Tucson, Quarry Pines actually, golf course. Before compost, they were not using any organic matter in their soil. They were just using the soil like a sponge. Let's just feed it some chemicals. So I said, just try it. Try the compost here. After 5 weeks, what was going on? It was holding water, right? So the seed could actually grow, and it was providing nutrition and the microbes. I mean, that's really just the 3 key elements, basically. Okay, I want to show you a few more before and afters. So this is a trial that I did using squash and corn seeds, and I planted in Tanks Green Stuff compost on the right, and on the left was a competitor's compost, not saying names. Anyway, you can tell the germination rate was really different. I got lots more germinated there, but then fast forward 2 more weeks, and you can see that those plants on the right are far more healthy. They're bigger, they're much greener. On the left side, they're yellow. Why are they yellow? Not fully composted compost, also called hot compost. The nutrients are not made available to the plant yet. Here's yet another one. So on the left side, there's the Tanks Green Stuff compost, and then a couple other brands you see really commonly in nurseries, and just providing the most rich, dense organic matter possible. It's very simple, right? Improving soil drainage. Okay. So this is a bit of a tangent, but I thought I can't pass up the opportunity to talk about this because it's something that has irked me for a long time. It was taught to me in school to put gravel in the bottom of our pots, in the bottom of our holes. Just humor me. Who has done this before? It's okay. We're all going to heal. All right, so does this work? The answer is no, it does not. Please don't do it. Okay, and I'll tell you why. It's somewhat counterintuitive, but just bear with me. And if this doesn't make sense, then please come talk to me afterward and we'll have a heart-to-heart. So if you envision that the sponge is the soil, and you put a sponge on top of gravel, when will the soil, or when will the water drain through the sponge into the gravel? When the soil sponge is completely saturated, right? It doesn't move through until it's completely saturated. So you've lost all the air in there. You're essentially reducing the root zone that is available and healthy to support plants. So does that make sense? So good, good, good. Okay, and also UC Davis did a great study, and this chart, I think, from 1998. This is the newsletter from 1998. Seriously, but you can actually see this in a graphical form. So anyway, just had to throw that in there. All right, back to organic matter. So we're adding compost to the soil, right? It's fully decomposed and readily available. Nutrients are readily available to the plants. Another way that we add organic matter, and a lot of other good functions as well, is with mulch. I was going to let Jake talk all about the mulch, but I had to mention a few things because we make a beautiful organic mulch called decorative wood chips. It's very functional beauty. It's just natural wood. There's no dyes or no chemicals. It's ideal for permanent plantings, you know, those trees that you're about to embark on your planting. Mulch conserves water by reducing evaporation from the soil. It cools the soil in the summer because we do have some intense heat, right? And it reduces the evaporation. In the wintertime, it acts as an insulator, so holding in the heat so that the roots can stay warm. And then over time, of course, it decomposes, adding that organic matter. You know, wood is also really important for supporting fungal communities in the soil. Very important to remember to add wood. Too bad, though, that wood chips attract scorpions. Or do they? Okay, we're going to just debunk myth number 2. All right. So these are some lovely pictures, very beautiful, right? From a friend of mine in Tucson that does work with Watershed Management Group, if you know about them. They're awesome. So this is a wood chip mulch of Tank's Green Stuff decorative wood chips in the landscape. And you know, I started hearing people say, oh, but I won't use wood chip mulch because it attracts scorpions. And I say, really? Really? I've never seen a scorpion in wood chip mulch. So I started asking people. So I'm just, you know, direct quote here. And no, didn't feed them anything. I just sent them this message. I said, have you ever seen a scorpion in your wood chip mulch? And this is my friend that actually moved into a house that had wood chips covering everything. She says, I've never seen a scorpion in Tucson ever. Okay, so that's the first one. Second friend, and who was this? This was, Joaquin, working with Watershed Management. And he says, I have never, in all the projects I've done, he's probably ordered like 10, 15, 20 truckloads of mulch from me, okay? So then my friend Emma, that mulched her entire yard. I was curious if she'd ever seen a scorpion. She says, I live in the Santa Cruz River outside of downtown Tucson. Whole yard is mulch. Never seen a scorpion inside or outside. I do see them on hikes outside. They're here in the desert, right? It's where they live. And this is my friend Brandon. I really kind of enjoyed his message back. No, but I've seen tons of scorpions in HOA sterile landscapes. I think it's funny. Anyway, so, and then he decided to add, just this really nice note about the fact that they are present in places where there is a diversity of species, and they are natural predators for scorpions. So I couldn't pass up the opportunity to emphasize how important it is to use mulch. There are so many good reasons to use mulch. And if you are still a little bit nervous about potentially running into a scorpion, even after we have talked about all of these things, then just wear gloves. All right, moving on. Get off my soapbox. Okay, here's some decorative wood chips used planting wood and fruit trees. Over time, they add organic matter to the soil. They cool the soil. They reduce the evaporation. Lots of great stuff. And this is really speeding up nature's natural processes, right? So what kind of organic matter should we add to the soil? This is important. I'm going to just spend just a couple minutes on this. Just bear with me. There's a few pieces of information at the top. Let's go through them step by step. So plants need nitrogen. We're all familiar with this, right? Okay, bacteria also need nitrogen. They need nitrogen in order to decompose carbon, okay? So nitrogen is actually tied up in the bodies of the microbes while they are decomposing carbon. And the ratio is very important. Okay, so have everybody heard about carbon to nitrogen ratios? A little bit. If you're a beginner, don't worry, we can talk about this more afterward if you like. But the carbon to nitrogen ratio is important. I'm going to show you a couple examples. So wood chips, for example, are very high carbon to nitrogen ratio, about 400 carbon per 1 nitrogen. Very high. So you can imagine that nitrogen is really hard to come by in order to decompose these wood chips. That's why they take a long time to decompose, right? Okay, on the other end of the spectrum, we have like a very green material such as this alfalfa hay or food waste from your kitchen. So that has a very low carbon to nitrogen ratio, much more nitrogen to go around per carbon, okay? This is our compost. It's about 16 to 1, so lots of readily available nitrogen. That's a good thing. It's fully composted. All right, so it's the ratio that's important. High carbon number means there's more competition for nitrogen. Okay, if this doesn't make sense to you, it's okay. We're going to try a different approach. Bear with me. If you are standing in line to see George Clooney, do you want 400 or 20 people in front of you before you get to see George Clooney? Right? And then you get to see George Clooney. Okay, great, that was awesome. And you have to go to the back of the line. Do you want another 400 people ahead of you before you get to see George Clooney again? Or do you want just 20 people? Am I crazy? Is this making sense to anybody? All right, it was a good try. Moving on to coconut. So does everyone know about the wonderful benefit of coconut? Coconut coir, people always look at that word and go, how do I say that? Coir, tomato, cocoa. That's what it is. It's the husk of the coconut. There's different grades. You can have really chunky and you can have really fine cocoa peat, as it's nicknamed. But basically, coconut doesn't decompose. It's made to last floating in the ocean for a long time, so it doesn't break down. It does add tons of aeration, lots of water holding ability like a sponge. It holds, I think, like 79% water holding ability. That's better than all those other amendments, such as peat moss. I'm saving the soapbox about Canadian peat moss for another day, but you should really avoid it and use coconut instead. It works far better and is far more sustainable and renewable. We hook up with Pro Coco in Tucson. They're a local company. They're also available here in Phoenix. And it comes in this lovely compressed block. You put that in a wheelbarrow or mixing tub of water with some water, and it expands to 2.5 cubic feet each. So they're awesome. And check out this picture. This is a moringa. A peat-based mix on the left, and on the right is a cocoa-based mix. Big difference. Air, water holding ability. It's great. And it is my great pleasure to introduce a new product to our Tank's Green Stuff product line, which is exclusively made for Urban Farm. I really have enjoyed working with Greg, and I'm super excited to bring this to you. We've kind of created something that would be perfect for this environment, for fruit trees, to add organic matter to the soil, to add coconut. So I'm happy to announce that Greg's tree planting mix will be available for this year's fruit tree extravaganza. And this is the label. I do have a sample at my table if you'd like to check it out, but I wanted to walk through each of the ingredients with you so you know what's in there. So the complete mix contains, of course, 100% organic compost. And what does that add? We all know this. We could all answer together, right? So nutrients, microbes, water holding ability, all kinds of good stuff. Composted pine bark. This was a lovely, nice, fluffy material. So I found it and added it in there. It has that nice aeration. I have a sample of it as well. Nice fluffiness. The organic coconut coir we just talked about, so having lots of water holding ability and aeration, and also we didn't talk a lot about this, but cation exchange capacity, helping with that interchange of nutrients from the soil to the plant roots. And finally, some perlite to add a little bit more air to the mix. Nice lightness, drainage, porosity. Are you guys excited for this product? I am. It was fun. It was great fun to make. All right, how much do you use? I know that the Urban Farm does a lot of training and has a lot of courses on this, but simply it's going to be a 40% native soil with 60% of this mix. You want to mix it really, really well with the native soil and dig a nice big fat hole so that you can make that transition zone much easier. That's another little common myth. People say, oh, never amend the soil. Well, never amend the soil for natives, but whenever you're planting non-natives, such as fruit trees, you do need to add some soil amendment, but make sure that it's thoroughly blended, you have a nice big hole, nice deep hole, and then you make that transition so the roots will grow far out. Does that make sense? I do want to also mention that Tank's Green Stuff, trying to make a full line of products that are local, organic, recycled, good for the people, plants, and planet, and we were missing that organic fertilizer. So we actually created an OMRI-listed organic fertilizer called Super Mix. Contains like 16 OMRI-listed organic ingredients, so you can trust that it's really good for the soil and for you and your plants. And we're having it tested with the U of A National Science Foundation at the Tucson Village Farm. It's a beautiful place where kids and families can come and learn about growing and eating healthy food. So we teamed up so that they get the food and can sell that and give that to the kids. And National Science Foundation puts their stamp of approval on it. It says, yes, it's real, it's good. So we grew broccoli, lettuce, and carrots. And just real quick, I wanted to show you that. This is the Super Mix. It's going to be in a 10-pound bag. I do have samples of that as well. This was our plot. And the compost was the control, right? We're comparing our organic fertilizer to a competitor organic fertilizer, and our compost is the control, right? However, I was finding this amazing results. So that on the left was the competitors. The control, the compost, was beating it. Couldn't believe it. Well, yes I can. And then this is the Super Mix organic fertilizer on the right side. Good compost has a lot of, has everything that the plants need to grow. I did want to just pull out a bit of the data because the compost, the control treatment in year 1 and year 2 proved so much of what we just talked about good organic matter and good microbes in the soil. So on the left side of all of these bars, in the broccoli, lettuce, and carrots, the blue bar was year 1, the yield from all of those crops. Then year 2, oh yeah, by the way, that was a parking lot before, so it was really desolate, very compacted soil. Remember the cereal at the beginning, right? Compacted, very dense. So we added the compost and we got these yields, blue bars. Then the year 2, adding just more compost so that those microbes have been able to work. Those pores are opening up, it's holding more water. Check out the increase. Okay, and the broccoli really threw it off, but if you look at the numbers, 84 for, grams on the carrots on the left side and then 201 on the right, that's more than double. So it's amazing what compost can do for you. All right, so on that note, I mentioned Tucson Village Farm. We work with Tucson Village Farm to help these kids to learn about healthy food and growing food and how to interact with your environment. Well, so Tank's Green Stuff, we really do care about culturing that in our community. We give so much compost to our local schools, our community gardens, and the community food bank is one that we specifically highlight. And I started a program that every 500 likes on Facebook, I just take them a truckload of compost to their farm there. So I wanted to share that with you, and I wanted to ask if you, 500 of you, could help us do that right now. Can you take out your phone and just look up Tank's Green Stuff on Facebook, give us a like, and I'll go take them some compost. Really strengthening our communities. Thank you. All right, and you can find us at www.tanksgreenstuff.com. Have lots of good info on there. I'm here all day. I'm really excited to talk to you, and I'm excited to see what you can produce with your fruit trees. Thank you so very much.